the center of your page. And it should be, whatever page number of 67, is that correct? Great, okay, thank you. And then really quick, I just want to ask a question on the slides. Do we have a slide deck?
I can, it'll just be a few moments before I'll be able to pull it
So
up.
while you're pulling that up, Counselor Kohler, when that slide deck comes up, I won't be able to see you anymore on the TV. So if you have a question, when you just interrupt.
Just speak up, you said.
I pull up my email and this is gonna show me.
I will do that.
Okay.
I do have just a quick question, if I may, Madam Chair. All the comps that you talked about are cities that have significant business or industrial areas, and we really don't have those. Is that a factor that we've put into all these numbers?
Thank you, Councilor Kohler. That is a great question. It's really hard to factor in different things such as how many residentials versus when it's just data. So it's just based on crime report data. So what we put into what would be our report data management system, which is Mark 43, is what comes out. So we don't have another really comparable agency that has really is Woodburn might be close-ish, but we really are a residential community without a lot of businesses. So to find another agency or city our size with the same population with about the same number of officers or a township or whatever, there's nothing exact out there. So these are a lot of these comparables are what we use for, I mean, and you know, I guess Tim Wood could speak more to this, but we use a lot of these comparables for our bargaining units. And so those are the widely accepted ones for bargaining. We use 8 of those and then 2 others, Redmond and Grants Pass, which are a little bit outside of our great geographical area, but they are almost the exact same size town that we have. So, but again, the town makeup, if you've been to Redmond and Grants Pass, is significantly different than Kaiser. So we have Kaiser Station, we have River Road, Cherry Avenue, really, and then we have houses and apartments. So we have a large residential.
Yeah, we're sister communities, tied bar to one, but ours, as you know, is mostly residential, and it's you know, maybe the Springfield Eugene dynamic is a little bit like that, but yeah, it's going to be tough to find the apples to apples comparison.
Is that any other questions at the moment, Ms. Counselor Kohler?
No, that'll do it for now. I just know that a significant number of our calls are coming from a small number of places. And I wonder if we can factor that into how we fund our police department a little bit more.
I think that's coming. That conversation is coming. I do have a couple, Mr. Brown, questions. If we come back up to page 8 of the report, under calls for service, we have, this is July 22 and 23. At some point, we went to a new reporting system and we don't have data available. So we don't have call data for those years, like that. I'm lost there. We don't know how many calls for service we had in 2022.
Thank you for that question. We do not. So we can guess, but it's calls for service are kind of monitored through our dispatch center, through our CAD system. And we had a CAD system that was a little bit antiquated back in 2022. And so we went to a new one in 2023. Once they decided to move away from the old CAD system, don't quote me, I wasn't the chief at the time, but we were asked, do you want these calls for service? Do you want us to be able to pull these for you? And I think the answer was no. I know the answer was no, because we don't have them. We double checked with Paula Collins, our records supervisor, back in October of last year, and I was like, hey, give me the calls for 22. I would love them for 21, 22, 23, 24. Got a hold of our dispatch center, WVCC, who kind of helps us get all, well, we don't need their help to get them all, but because we don't have access to them or that report writing system or that CAD system anymore, they couldn't get them for us.
Okay,
They're gone. So the latest we have is from that July 1st. It's like almost mid-June-ish, but July 1st, 23. And I will finish, we do have 2025 numbers, and I was right around. It says 2025 to date
yeah.
in that second paragraph.
I have
Yep.
that.
We're right at 20,400 calls for 2025.
20,000.
400. Yep. It might be 401 or 2 or 10. We're right at 20,400.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, look at that. One posting note handled and one question from Counselor Durden handled. Thank you, Chief. Okay, okay, Counselor Kohler, I can no longer see you, so make sure and speak up, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And same, I guess that does follow along then with my next question for page 10. Are these numbers in the 2025 column, are those through the end of the year? Or are those through a certain date? Because if you didn't have the numbers on page 8, I was questioning whether or not those were accurate numbers on page 10.
Those are current numbers through the end of 2025. So those are through December 31st of 25.
Thank you. Okay. Another purple sticky note then?
Last thing, if I may add, Council
Absolutely.
President Starr.
Yeah.
Just when you're talking NIBRS numbers, it's fascinating to see the differences in what report you pull from what agency. And what I learned is you'll see something different just between the table on page 10 of our report and page 11 of our report. The difference between those are the exact, that's us pulling our own numbers and OSP pulling our own numbers. So what we found is they're inconsistent. So you'll notice aggravated assaults, we show 87, OSP shows 77. That's the same, it's supposed to be the same data. It's not. And there's several reasons why. I'll try to explain the best as I was told, because we asked several questions of several different people as to why do we have different numbers for the same crimes. OSP counts suspects. No, they count arrest charges, or no, they count suspects, we count victims. So when you extract the information, we want to track each victim that was a victim of aggravated assault.
Additional, right? Potentially.
Yes, not just the suspect who committed the crime.
It's the number of victims.
Correct.
Okay.
And it also, at times, you'll have one victim of multiple different crimes. For example, victim of a theft, they could be assaulted during that theft and their car stolen. So they're a victim of potentially 3 different crimes. When you extract that information from NIBRS, sometimes it only gives you one, the most serious crime for that victim.
Gotcha.
And so we, on the converse, when OSP pulls it, and there's that one suspect, it could be the biggest crime for that one suspect. So the numbers, I will tell you, they're close. They're not perfect unless there's one data set that I think city manager pulled for all of us, or we got from dispatch that listed out every single crime individually. And it was how many pages? It was like 70 pages of line by line that you would have to, and we couldn't extract that into an Excel file that was even manageable. So the numbers are close. And I think they're very consistent, especially with the city manager's about to go over. The report that he pulled will probably be the most consistent amongst all the agencies when you're looking at comparable crime data and the NIBRS reporting.
Thank you, Chief Copeland. One clarifying question on that table that starts on page 10. You have 2 columns for 23 and 24 under Kaiser Police and the state police, but only 1 column in the middle for 2025.
I believe that we pulled our own number and OSP didn't get it back to us fast enough.
Got it. Okay,
Because we
perfect.
asked them for end of
Yeah.
year and they do not operate on our timelines. I'll get after them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Brown, I think we're all caught up. Thank you.
Good. Uh, well, that's great questions, great. Response, so you'll see a lot of slight variation between the data pulled from our system and then what we report to NIBRS, Kaiser to Kaiser. The NIBRS is kind of the equalizer, because they lump it into the same categories, so. And I think even our numbers will jive on this, page 12, the Kaiser breakout. This also goes to, some of the questions I got between the meetings about the types of crime. And if you look at that pie chart, which go to slide 5, the pie chart. There we go. You'll see the 4 biggest categories there: larceny, property damage, vandalism, simple assault, shoplifting. Shoplifting and larceny, they're at 42%, nearly half our crimes. I have made an attempt at mapping, Counselor Juria. It's low tech mapping, but I think we will be able to work with our GIS analysts and get some better heat mapping. Let me, in fact, since we're there, I'm gonna jump around on my slide. I kind of threw everything in, and let's go to slide 17. Okay, and then what you're gonna see is this LexisNexis mapping, and I took it month by month. And it'll fade from 1 month, December or January 1 to February, March, all the way to December. And you'll kind of see where the crimes were for each month. Now, for some reason, I'm not sure why, and it's probably only a phone call away, but you'll see kind of a bubble around Kaiser Station. You'll see the numbers for Kaiser Station out in the farmland. And if you click on the data, it'll say 6,200 block of Eulalie, 6,800 block of Eulalie. And there's a comment in there that they didn't want the precise location named. So as you look at these maps, when we click the next slide, they should start playing. And all that stuff you see around Kaiser Station is Kaiser Station activity.
Thank you for that, Mr. Brown. And just for those who might be watching on the live stream, this is not in the packet that was published, but it will be added to the meeting tomorrow, right?
Yes, these were, I did some work from questions that I got from the committee between the publishing and tonight.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure everybody that was watching knew that they would be able to access that soon. Yeah.
Great. So let's hit the next arrow and it should move from there. Or might have to hit. There we go. There we go. You see that bubble around Kaiser Station? Some of the blocks, there's more than one. Maybe 3 or 5 different cases, the same spot.
I'm not seeing your bubble map. Where do I find that?
Are you not able to see the presentation, Councilor Kohler?
It says Public Safety Task Force January 28 update. That's what it says.
I wonder if it's a lag or.
And now we've seen. Nothing.
Well, let's go ahead and back up to the first map format. So yeah, there you see all kinds of activity around Kaiser Station. Know that all those those ones that are occurring are in Kaiser Station, because. I've clicked on them and looked at every one of them and. There's not a lot of activity out in the farms, that are north of Kaiser Station, despite what the map will show. So anyway, that's my low tech crime mapping for you. I think we can do better than that. We're working with our GIS analyst. And get something, by the time we get to, our, either next meeting or next council presentation, so.
Counselor Duran.
So I'm going back to the pie chart on page 12, which you showed us.
Mhm.
So I would assume that the shoplifting, the 31% of shoplifting is from retail stores. That would make sense.
That would be correct. Yes, that does make sense. I mean, just to be like, to make it very clear, yes, shoplifting can only be from a store. So the other larceny would be from a residence or potentially from a car or from any other type of besides a business.
Is any of that larceny in a different kind of business other than retail? I mean, what would you say the larceny, the majority of the larceny is from? Is it from citizens? Or, I mean, are they the victims, or is it other kinds of stores other than retail?
Does include homes.
I would venture to say that that would be pretty darn close to that 11% would be. 11% would be from residences. We get a lot of stuff stolen from, outbuildings, properties. Like a shed in the back, garage or covered carport. People going to someone's house and stealing from inside from either a known person or those type of things, or. Even stealing from a person, like stealing a purse from a shopping cart from a store, that would go under the larceny, not under a shop.
So so then is any of the vandalism and destruction damage, property, is any of that happening in the retail stores? I mean, does that go along? To me, it doesn't sound like it would be part of any kind of retail. Or stores, but I'm just, is there anything that you'd be able to cross over?
I haven't looked at all of them, but I would venture to say that if there was any vandalism and there was any victim, whether it be a business or an individual that owns something that got vandalized, that would fall under that category. And I'll tell you, within these categories of vandalism, we can look, there's another sheet of paper that I can pull up. It lists out like 18, 18 is not the right number, but it would list out 10 different items that would fall under vandalism. And that would be buildings, cars, whatever else could be vandalized. There'd be a couple different categories that you could choose from.
Let's say a department store, having items vandalized during a theft, would that be included in vandalism? That would be included in the theft?
This is going back to that original Nivers issue that we have, because you're gonna have the same victim of two different crimes. We may not capture the vandalism over the shoplift. If the vandalism is a higher dollar amount than the shoplift, it'll probably show up under the vandalism, because when you extract these people and these victims and the same case number, it only wants to pull one crime associated with the victim per incident. So there could be, you could be a victim of a theft in the vandalism. That's why these Nivers numbers are generally close. They're close. They get us in a really good picture of what kind of crimes occurring in our city and other comparable cities, but they're not perfect.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything that we can put into the retail pot of crimes other than shoplifting.
I'll look while you're talking and see if there's any other type of business categories that we could fit in there.
Because what I brought up before was, if, obviously 40% of, well, I guess if the larceny is included in retail, 31% is a high number of how much activity the police departments, expends hours and information on shoplifting in retail establishments. I'd like to know how to separate that out from large department stores to mom and pop stores, just so we can get an idea of where this is occurring. So we did want to adjust our, how we charge, any kind of fee. If there's a way to extrapolate that. So. we can put that.
Yeah, I see thank you, Councilor Duran. I see you're getting at there. I'll keep looking, but there's gonna be several different categories. They're gonna be attributed to a business or to a retail store. I'm even looking at the trespasses that we respond to. There's quite a few of those each year, and a lot of those are businesses calling in asking us to trespass something from them. So that would be an additional call for service according. And I don't know if I'm not really sure, because I'm not the guy who extracts all this information. There might be an easy way, but I don't know if there is. But I'm gonna look through this individual NIBRS report and see if there's some categories that can be separated out pretty easily.
Just looking through the list, going to the right side, credit card, ATM fraud, I mean, that can be, most likely is probably at a business. I would like to be able to say, look, this list of items are stuff that happens on retail, and then these are the calls that, the numbers of calls for different areas of cases or different kinds of business, so we can judge how that happens. And then also for other establishments that may not be retail. Restaurants, and if we have an issue with certain kinds of businesses, I think more effort, more services in the police department, we can look at that and go, I know if we had a huge problem with a bar, we may have I've never seen it in the time that I've been here. An instance where when we need a liquor license, we say, maybe that, these people are, a definite cause for alarm in our city. Maybe we gotta look at this in the future or something. I've never seen anybody talk about that, and that's come up, now it doesn't come up, or so. So we changed that, so we don't hear that, but I would definitely recommend the numbers also, we can use that.
I can also take that 12 months of data and aggregate it. One of the reasons we didn't just put it all in one spot is because it limits the amount of data on one page to 500. So that's why I take it month by month, which it's actually for a time lapse works okay, but month by month, I can go through and calculate that data around some of our retail centers, which would also include perhaps some of our shopping centers on River Road too, grocery stores. We can do that for the next meeting.
I think that would be good. I think that's what you were asking for and trying to get at back in September when you asked some of those. Before we go on, I want to check in with Councilor Kohler. Did you have any questions, Councilor?
No, I was just gonna say, I was just typing a message to Melissa. Thanks for trying to send that to me, but it came through as some kind of a spam thing and won't let me open it. So I do have the Kaiser Breakout 2024 on my screen now. Is that where we are?
Yes.
Perfect, good. But thank you, Melissa, for trying. It just didn't. I tried it on my computer and on my phone both, and it just tells me I'm still ugly. So there we go.
They're out. Technology gremlins are in full force. Okay, thank you, Councilor Kohler. Can we, in addition to, in case anyone's following along at home, this data that we're looking at on page 12 is not inclusive of traffic. Citations or traffic stops or any kind of traffic situations, accidents, etc., right? I just want to make sure that we're clear that this data that we're looking at on page 12 does not have anything traffic related in it. unless it's,
That is correct. The only traffic related things are if it turns into a crime. Such as a DUI or DWS misdemeanor or some other type of. Correct.
but that's not on here either, DWI is not, I don't see that. Am I missing that? I very well could, I just,
I actually don't remember pulling that off of the library standards. I don't know what's connected, but then.
As part, sorry, that's the President Star, as part of the packet, there is the 2024 NIBRs, the 2025 NIBRs that we pulled for ourselves. All of the DUI stuff will be in those numbers, so you'll have that back to, I think, 22, 21 to 25. But it's this is again the problem with sometimes when you run a NIBRs specific, because some reports that you pull won't give you any information about a DUI or a traffic related offense. And so it's a very frustrating world to live in when you're really trying to boil it down to very specifics, because it's near impossible unless you look at every call for service in that entire year. And then if you're asking year after year, I mean, we're getting influence metadata it's a lot. And we've tried to get some of our experts, which would be like Adam Kanchna, WVCC, and then OSP, to really boil some of these things down, and it's just not getting us where we want.
so. Thank you for that. How do we then get that information? But I think it's important. I mean, does it come, I don't recall seeing it later in the packet, but maybe I looked at it. Like DWIs or
It's part of the attachments,
the attached, okay.
correct?
So then can we add, when we do an update on this data, I appreciate like the destruction, damage, vandalism, you know, the 13%, the assaulted 18, like those numbers. We add the numbers along the key on the side, so people that are residents who might be looking at this information can see what the percentages are of those, of the different colors. I mean, I know we have, you know, the major ones called out, but I'm curious how many kidnapping and abductions we have in Kaiser.
Yes, we can add a table
Okay,
to those labels.
perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. We still get Counselor Fuller?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go.
Yeah. I think another one, if we could go to slide 9 on that presentation. That is telling, is looking at some of our comparables against us and how they're splits out. If you look at Tiger, their shoplifting is 42%. Yeah, jumps out. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too, and so Woodburn is close and they have a big mall on freeway.
Right.
So that makes sense. In Tiger, they've got a couple different big shopping areas, so
Mhm.
I think it's mostly on that vibe, so. It's definitely interesting looking at this stuff and compared to Oregon City is really, it's pretty low comparable. So is Lake Oswego, all these definitely, but I don't think all of them have been. I've been rolling for a while, but they don't have anything the same as Kaiser Station. It's small.
Even if you, there's a really big difference in the destruction, damage, vandalism, and property, the orange slice. Between those communities.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought those were very telling of, our closure rates, on page 17 and the report through 18, or again, kind of right in the middle to the top of our comps. Okay, I think was this the opening cost comparison in the last one, or is that in this? Maybe this one. We got last one. We had last one. Okay, so we've covered that. So let's go to section 7, which there's a new section because we part of our what we're missing from our last report, our Pageant Police Department did an amazing job pulling together the internally focused items, but we need to look at it as a piece of the whole city. So there was a section 7, which is now section 8. We bumped to add this as explain the whole budget picture for the city.
Can you use page numbers so if somebody's following along?
Yes, 58 of 67 in the report. Looking at that.
So this packet is labeled section 7.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Yeah, on the top it should read public safety cost as a part of the city budget.
Thank you.
You know, and we go through some charts, this one, the second chart there, this one we use each budget year. We've seen this fall coming, and other cities around us have had that fall too. We've been fortunate to be a couple years behind them, but we are all subject to the same frozen tax rates, same laws that every city that creates a challenge for budgeting. So, you know, a lot of questions that we get is, well, how did we get here? And I think probably one of the simplest answers is we had a period of hyperinflation between 2020 and 2024. And our assessed values and taxable values could not keep up with the cost of our department as a whole. In 2017, which is almost 10 years now, they implemented the fee to be able to add, I think, 5 officers. And that fee was looked at each year and incrementally rose to cover the cost of those 5 officers, but the cost of the other 45 in the department was our taxable value did not keep up with the hyperinflation during that year that we saw in our equipment and or personnel costs and collective bargaining agreements. So. Assistant City Manager Tim Wood, I think, did a really great job of putting a side-by-side comparison of the two main options we have on the table. That's a council approved fee is what we've been doing for, let's say, since 2017. The other thing to consider is an operating levy, which would be a 5-year funding mechanism that would be added to the tax rate. So we did the math on both of those, what it would take for both of those to cover our costs. In the narrative portion of that, from page 59 through the 62, there's really a logic comparison of a levy versus a fee, the benefits or the pros on either one of those.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Counselor Duran, you have a question?
You were here to talk about police speed, right? So that's what this group is about. So are you telling me that on this slide, the $2.857 million shortfall, 2.857 million, 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 is GC. Is that,
That is the one way to make it up. Are we saying, is it all police?
so you're asking us to talk about an operating line for a full general fund budget in this police fee meeting?
So, yes, yes and no. I don't think we can't put. We're not intending to put non-police things off the table. If, and we've talked about it internally, if we have to present those at some point. Cuts that we make to other parts of the general fund. The challenge is that the police is such a large proportion of the general fund that you could cut in other places and it really wouldn't make much of a dent in it.
So, since we're here for the Kaiser Police Fee Task Force, can you tell us what the police, what are we here talking about for the police? About the general fund? I understand it comes out of the general fund, but we're here to talk about police. So that's what I would like to talk about first. I'd like to know what you're asking for. I was understanding that we weren't gonna be increasing the police. If the cost may be going up, but we weren't gonna be increasing the police personnel. We'd set where we were gonna be, we talked about that being good for a few years. And that was how I was understanding it in the last 2 meetings. So I would like to talk about that right now, because we're here to talk about police fee, and that's what we were originally here talking about. Now we're going down. So I think we need to narrow it down, or I would like to narrow it down first. About what it is, just the police fee, and then we can move. The whole council can talk about it.
Mr. White?
Thank you. So the recommendations that we're presenting tonight, those are specific just to the police department. So that $2.8 million number we were just looking at, that is the entire general fund. However, of that 2.8 million, about 1.6 million of that is police department. So I think maybe one of the questions is how did we get to where we're at? So right now we have a police fee that's bringing in about $1.2 million. We add a 1.7 million of the current year budget shortfall. So better get my notes in front of me here.
So the current fee as we have it now brings in 1.2 million.
That is correct. So the recommendations as far as an operating levy, that number, and then the additional police fee, that is strictly just to support the police department. It has no impact on the other parts of the general fund. So
If I'm not following, I apologize. But if one of the operating loss for the general fund, which you have in the box, is 2.857. And of that, 1.6 million is the Kaiser related to funding our police department.
correct.
Our current fee that we have implemented right now is bringing in 1.2 million. So we're really 400,000 is what the number that we're trying to figure out to fund. Yes?
So
Okay, so
So stepping back, the assumptions that we're looking at as far as an operating levy, those numbers or increases into the police fee. That would factor, we're not continuing the police fee. So it'd be basically a fresh start for those current years. So what I'm trying to get to is our current fee, what we're trying to solve for, our current fee is 1.2 million. We got to figure out if we're going to keep that, increase that, make it completely go away. So that's part of the question. The current budget shortfall, the 2.8 million, roughly 1.7-ish of that is directly related to the police department.
And I thought I heard 1.6.
I just got my notes up, so.
It's 1.7, okay. So that's, I guess that's my question then. We're bringing in 1.2 on the fee. And 1.2 is the shortfall.
So if we were just talking about increasing the fee, we would need to increase the fee to. To generate that 1.7 is what you're saying. That's all we were talking about.
For the current year, yes,
I was tracking them.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so that gets us to about 2.9 million overall that we need to figure out how we're going to address. On top of that, we're also experiencing some revenue shortfalls, specifically in our liquor area. People are not drinking anything like they used to. We're about 350,000, 400,000 short as far as our liquor revenues go. So that adds about another 500,000-ish when you start factoring in some of the franchise fees. Everyone's cutting Comcast, those kind of things. So the top line, we have a top line issue as well. So that gets us to about $3.4 million. We got basically another year and a half before we could really see the impact of a operating levy. So there is some indexing in there that gets us closer to about a $4 million number that we need to figure out. Are we going to do that through an operating levy, or are we going to do that through a fee when
Or
the time
the
comes? For just the police department.
What's up? Counselor Fuller, any questions so far?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You're saying that if we put the police levy on a ballot, that would include removing the police fee that currently goes out with the service
That's
bill.
not- That is correct. That is an option that you folks can consider. And that's what the operating levy number that we have in the packet is taking into consideration.
Thank you.
Any other follow-ups, Counselor Fuller?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Counselor Duran, anything? Okay, thank you.
That, in that, we didn't include the indirect costs for the police, so that would be the support, financial, human resources, legal, all that stuff on the other side of the building, but. Let's see. With that. On page 64 of 67 in the report is the comparison of a fee increase, what it would take for fees, and then what it would take by a levy on page 65. For a fee increase, actually, do you want to just cover it? This is Tim's handiwork, so. You okay with that?
Sure. So again, some of the assumptions that we built into this is we're comparing a police fee versus an operating levy. The operating levy we can do for up to 5 years before we have to take it back out to voter approval. So what we've put together is an analysis of what do we think the police department costs are going to be out to 31, 31, 32. So basically about 6 years out, because that's when we factor in when we could see the resources from a levy. So in the middle of page 64 to 67, there's the police services fee rate. This would be if we were looking at doing something to the commercial rate. So if we were to break that out to ESUs, this would be if we were solely relying on the fee to fund the police department. This is kind of the rate structure that we would be looking at. So we're currently at 690. I looked back at some of our long-range planning documents and actually estimated that we really should be between 10 and 12 for the current year. So we are a little bit behind there already. But in order to get the same amount of revenue that we would need to fund the department, over the next couple of years, we would need to get up to, by the end, $32 per month, 32.46 and 31.32. The thing with a fee is the council has the ability to structure the fee however you so choose. So if you want to direct more of the fee at commercial, we can tailor the fee to do that. If you want to provide discounts, there's that option as well. But this is just kind of the base model, also assuming that we do the ESU by commercial. This is the impact of what we need to fund the police department. If we move to the operating levy, kind of doing some of the backwards math, for the 5-year period that we could have that operating levy, the soonest we could have it in place, we would need $1.18 to make the same amount of revenue that we would from the fee structure. There's a few restrictions to note with the operating levy. Unlike the fee, we don't really have the ability to customize it. So we wouldn't really have an ability to provide discounts. We wouldn't have the ability to target commercial business if that's something that the council chose to do. In the middle of the bottom of page 65 of 67, there's a comparison year by year of what things would look like on a yearly basis and then a monthly basis. As we go down the yearly columns, the single family residents really would lose out if we did a operating levy, because again, you don't have the financial controls to direct how much of a fee we would want it across the board, allocating the tax rate. Commercial would probably actually do better under a operating levy. Their fees would be lower just because it's based off the assessed value, not an ESU kind of a model, which we could target to increase there. Multifamily would also do better just because it's off the assessed value instead of a per unit type of model that we currently have structured. Then the people currently receiving discounts probably would not do as well under the operating levy because, again, it's just a tax rate applied to their assessed value. So that's, I guess I'm kind of saying the big thing to consider is, do you want to have a lot of flexibility in who's paying the fee, or do you want to assess it equally across the assessed value? I think that's really kind of a question you would have if you were pursuing a fee versus an operating levy. And that was a lot of information all at once.
Thank you. I want to pause for a moment on that and check in for questions. We'll start, you know me, I have my list of questions, just one more, but I want to give Councilor Puller an opportunity to ask any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some of the questions that I have, I think you probably went over, but maybe they didn't all sink in. So if we, what you're saying then is, if I heard this right, the only way to really do a fee structured based on use or a commercial enterprise that has a lot of calls with the police department is to do the fee rather than the voted on
Levy.
levy. Yeah. Was that what I heard?
That is correct. You'd have a lot more levers to pull going the fee route versus the operating levy. You could target specific areas if you so choose. versus just assessing it over the assessed value of the city.
Follow up.
Absolutely.
So you're saying that if we did it with the police service fee, you're looking at 1833 for single family residential versus the 690. So you're looking at 166% increase for single family. Is that a correct assumption?
That's correct, yes.
Ouch.
Any further questions on the floor?
That's enough for now. Thank you.
Counselor Duran? Okay, I think this will go to Mr. Wood. Can you, for those that are watching from home, can you please walk us through, on page 64, you have you have different columns. You have we know what a single family residential is. Commercial would be a business, right?
That's correct.
Retail business. We know multifamily. What is irrigation?
Irrigation would be anywhere that has sprinkler systems, so a school district, one of the schools, they typically have multiple meters. So they'll have an irrigation meter and they'll have a meter for the building itself. Also, larger businesses have that situation as well.
Okay, so how are we differentiating then between on a school district, which is a government that would also have irrigation? Because you have both of those columns.
Correct. The irrigation for the school district would be separate, would be in a separate column.
Okay, gotcha. So separate meters. Okay, gotcha. Can you also, Mr. Wood, remind us? I think you've explained this. I think you do it every year, a budget. And we ask you year after year. The explanation for the lower or how you bill the multifamily.
The multifamily is a slightly lower rate compared to the residential. We bill them on a per unit basis. So each storefront that they have will be charged that flat fee. So if they have 10 units in a complex, they'll get the discounted rate times 10. The discounted rate is to factor in the likelihood that they're not at 100% vacancy or 100% full all the time. So we're giving them a little bit of a discount based off the fact that they probably have some turnover that they're dealing with.
So it's almost a full dollar discount per unit than it is a single family residence, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Was that? Is that part of the fee resolution, that definition and that fee and that structure, the decision to charge a different amount?
Correct, yeah, it's built into the resolution. But that can be changed.
Right.
Is there any way to look at services for multifamily compared to services for just residential? I mean, any services. So where to see what kind of, I see the police and apartments a lot because I'm back, but you don't see them that much in residences because it's a little more spread out, so. Just wonder if there's a way to tell.
Council Duran, I'll take a stab at this one. Yes, there's definitely a way to tell. We just have to look up at, what location the crimes occurred at. More importantly, not just crimes, but calls for service in general, because not every call for service turns into a crime. So either way, it's taking time to police activity. But yes, we can look that up. by location, and I think even when we GIS map these things, it'll pinpoint on these different locations, which would be very clearly multi-family. So that'll be available to you.
Just
Anecdotally, you're correct. We're gonna spend more time in a more condensed area where there's multifamily than single family residential neighborhoods.
And that'll just increase the more dense population. You're
Correct.
At least that's where it looks in large cities.
I'm not sure who wants to, take this one on, but I don't see a definition here, and maybe, and I very well could have missed it, for what an equivalent service unit is.
Sure. So the equivalent service unit, we use that to charge the stormwater fee. The general is a single family residence is typically one ESU. So we would take that square footage, compare that to a commercial property and say, oh, based off of the square footage, you are 10 ESUs. So it's based off of the permeable ground. So
Clear as mud.
clear as mud, yeah. So basically, a larger business such as a Home Depot is gonna be paying a lot more in stormwater fees than a single family residence. So for the example that we have in here, a multifamily with 78 units, that would be basically about 78 ESUs for that one mobile home park.
How many?
78.
78 ESUs. Still clear as mud. So. Single family residence. Lowe's. How many ESUs for Lowe's, and what's the cost per ESU?
Give me a second, and I'll pull that up.
So.
This is gonna take me a few minutes. That's up on the right spreadsheet.
The other thing I think is to consider is, we bill on a bi-monthly basis, right? So that 690
Is per month or per 2 months?
per month. So on the bill, it shows up as 1380, right? We get up to that in the first year, 1850, I think it was.
1833.
Yeah. And then when you get your bill and it's 3666. Now. There. And this is, something that just, like I said, I'm throwing out there for consideration to have that come off of your city services bill. Is maybe preferred over something that comes back into your escrow statement each year from the county saying, the taxes have gone up this much. the end result is set $30 a month for the average home. Whether it's passed on to the renter in a multifamily housing is gonna be based on rent caps and or elasticity. Vacancy rates.
It's gonna be eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the rent's gonna go up, no matter. The end user always pays for the cost. But they may say we're not gonna raise our rates this time, but the next time it'll get doubled. I mean, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
The user always pays.
So I think that's just some of the optics and emotion. I think that is probably important to consider as the council debates, which is a better route.
I appreciate that. I also have heartburn when I look at this chart and I see that as our fee structure is now, you have a single family residents paying the same amount as Target,
Yeah, and
paying the same amount as Ulta, paying the same amount as so emotion
yeah,
when I see that is the inequity and the burden that we are putting on single family residences.
mm-hmm,
And I go back to the purpose in us asking for the data back in September was to understand the number, to really understand the number of crimes, if you will, that are happening at a single family residence versus our commercial retail entities, because in my simple world, it seems to me, as Counselor Duran said, the end user, right? And where our resources are being pulled the most should be where the funding is coming from. So I go back to, I wanna know, and this is in my simple head, I would see Ulta 50 calls. X amount of hours total for those calls. So I'm just gonna use, because I'm in a simple world tonight. I'm gonna try to simple math, right? So Ulta, 50 calls for service, 2 hours per call equals 100 hours of staff time equals X amount of cost. Like in my head, that's what we need to see in order to make the most well-informed decision about how funding our public safety services is structured. And so, and if that means we break it down to standalone bars, 50 calls for service, 2 hours per call, right? That's 100, like that, I think, is the type of information. And I'm looking at Tammy and Jackie, who have sat through all of these meetings. I think, is that what in your conversations, you know, I'm not asking you to come up and make a statement, but is that the information that our community is looking for? Yeah, that's what I think that we would want to understand. So until we can get that information, and is that the kind of information that you were asking for, Counselor Duran?
It is, and one of the other things I wanna kind of delineate from a little bit is. It's not, I don't wanna lump everything into commercial, because there's probably 10 times of commercial entities. That get compared to this retail stuff that we're talking about. So if you lump it all into commercial, then you're kind of doing the same thing, you're just pushing it over onto you know, that's another group,
So can we tier it?
yeah, so.
And what does that tiering look like? So is it retail that does? I don't know, and now I'm just talking,
So,
but is it over, you know, over 10,000 square feet? Is it from, you know, I don't know, 2,500 to 999 square feet? Like, what does that tiering look like? But I only think we can know that when we have crystal clear data that tells us who's using the service and how many person hours are we spending on those polls, and what is that total cost?
so
That Mr.
Madam Chair.
Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we have to be a little careful and be cognizant that a business says, oh, well, we're not going to call the cops now because we don't want to have to pay extra for a police fee or something else. So I just think we need to be a little bit cognizant of making sure we're still serving everyone without trying to base it on a per call factor. Does that
I'm
make
not
sense?
asking for a per call factor. I'm asking, I wanna know which. I'm asking what the cost per. We think we know where, and it's, we think we know where the resources are being spent based on the anecdotal information and what we're hearing. I mean, I did multiple ride-alongs, and I know how many times we went to Kaiser Station. And I saw the number of officers that were needed based on the different type of call and how long they were there. So I think that's the information that we wanna look at when we're looking at, you know, do we go for a very inflexible funding model, which I'm hesitant to even talk about. Or do we ask for really clear data that gives us the information that either affirms or gives us a better picture of what we think is happening? Mr. Brown?
so the ESU is based on the number of square feet of impermeable surface. So a house has a roof, and the runoff of that has a driveway, runoff of that goes into permeable ground. The ESU is the best thing we've come up so far because the fact big box store has a lot of permeable surface. The runoff from the roof, the large swaths of parking. And so that's why we chose the ESU. I think it's the best fit that we can get now because there is a relationship there between a parking lot and the roof, the big box store, and versus a homeowner's house that's broken, like parking lot or driveway. Two stores. Good one. Yeah. So just putting that explanation out for anybody that may wonder where that comes from.
Thank you. Mr. Wynn?
I apologize, it took me forever to find my information. I have way too many
That's okay.
spreadsheets.
We typically
So
we were.
anyway, with respect to ESUs, under our existing model, if we were to say somewhere like Target, they currently have 131 ESUs. And that's comparison to a single family of one. So if we were to modify our existing structure at the 690, Target would go from paying $690 a month to $903 a month.
Interesting.
And that's if you went direct correlation, where you don't
Correct.
necessarily have to.
Correct.
You can say, you know, one ESU is one, but 20 ESU is 10. Just so it's not a direct, it's a ratio. Whether it's- so
You do a commercial value of an ESU, or you're just going straight, like residential versus commercial is the same?
Yeah, just using the same,
Is it feasible to assign a commercial value to an ESU?
we could definitely do that.
we're back to. We should make that information.
We are wishing we had that information today. Oh, okay, so we can assign commercial ESU value. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm seeing Chief Copeland
Oh,
jumping up and down almost.
I'm short, so I don't see over the thing, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try and stand up a little bit. Just to be clear, you're looking for when we're pulling data. It's gonna be pretty easy to pull some data from like Target and Lowe's. There's probably too many businesses to pull by address to look specifically. Are you looking at maybe a minimum number of calls for, I'm just trying to figure out how to input my filters into a database. Do you want like, hey, 10 calls per service and above for the year?
What say you, Counselor Fuller, Counselor Duran? So. Choice is yours.
And as you're thinking about that, store policies dictate how much we respond to that location. So I can't remember if it was City Manager Brown or Tim Wood who mentioned we don't want to, or maybe it was it was Council. I knew somebody wise said it. That, you know, if you pull the data and you're like, okay, we're gonna bill you about how many times the cops show up, you know, potentially store policies could change. We have really good relationships with certain managers because we've developed those relationships and those mold some policies. And so we're more apt to go to some of those. Safeways, we have a good relationship with Safeway, with Cascade Farm and Outdoor, with the liquor store, with, you know, some of the bars that will call us. We develop relationships. We can preemptively go in there and stop something that may otherwise happen. Target's a big one. We've worked really hard on that relationship. We're working with the merchants throughout all of Kaiser through this business community that the chamber set up. You might know something about that. But you know, there's still the tough ones like Lowe's. I mean, they will not call an act of theft unless the loss prevention officer is on site, observing it, has the video in hand and ready to present it to us. So, you know, it's like you could look at a Target where we may go 20 times in a month, and that's just saying that we probably go more. Versus Lowe's where we may go 10.
Yeah.
And that's just based on store policies. And then you have Marshalls who doesn't ever want to call us based on their store policy, and you'll get citizens who will call us from inside Marshalls. And so that generates the activity, but it's not actually the business calling us. And so when you're looking at all these different factors and you're looking at numbers, and then you have 20,000 calls and trying to, you know, a year trying to just really cipher that down into some type of filter that you can use for educating yourself on how to make good decisions. It's not impossible, but parameters in that search would be amazing. Because I think we can pull a lot of calls. But if we're you know, just give me the parameters of which you think would be
And
one
again,
time a month.
just want to clarify that I'm not suggesting we do a fee per call.
Yeah.
I just am wanting to make sure that we're paying attention to where our resources are going.
Yeah, I would add to that, we're not looking to do a one for one. We're looking at historical data and just trying to see what categories use the most calls, not specific stores necessarily.
Okay.
That's how I'm looking at it. It's, you know, big box stores, you know, supermarkets, things like that. You know, we can categorize things and say, okay, this group of stores, you know, historically have this much service, and these kind of restaurants, or these kind of bars have this much service. And And if we look at it and it's, it's up and down minimal, then we don't count them. It's, they're basically a single kind of thing. And commercial businesses, there's a lot of small commercial businesses, like I said, I've been in business for many years and I've never called the police on anything, they call me, but I've never called them. They've come to look at my cameras, but for other instances of things that are outside of my business, but I've never called them for my business. And you could say that for probably 95% of businesses up and down the road. So I want to make sure we're not categorizing commercial as the high volume usage when they don't use it.
So I don't know the answer to that request, chief. I don't know if it's you do it based on square footage. Or you tier the square footage, and I am the worst, I have no idea how big this room is, right? So. I mean, you could ask me and I'd say, maybe 100 square feet, pretty sure it's not, but I don't know. So I'm just like, I don't know how big this is, but I don't know, and so is that the measure that you do when you tier it? So businesses from, up to. Help me out, Mr. Builder person that knows.
It's hard to say, look at my business.
Yeah, how big is yours?
2,000 square feet.
Oh, really? Oh, I never.
With all my shop space, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So my taxes are based on 2,000 square feet. So
So maybe we look up to like 4,999. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's Google searching how many businesses we had in Kaiser to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out like, how am I
Yeah,
gonna do those? Yeah, so
So I don't know if it's like 0 up to 4,999, 5,000 up to 9,999, 10,000 to 14,999, 15,000. I don't even know how. Don't even ask me to guess how many square feet Safeway is, because I don't know, it'd be like asking me to guess how many M&Ms are in the jar. I have no idea. But I'm just like, I don't know if that's a tiered method is how you do it. Or if you look at type of business. But I'm not
Yeah, I mean,
I almost think
So-
it's a sure way to go. Counselor Puller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. An interesting number that was thrown out just a minute ago, 90 some odd percent of small businesses never call a police for service. And I think residential is the same way. And 90 some odd percent probably will never call a police officer and have them come to their home, which that's a good thing. We like that. And maybe that's where you get the 1 unit type number. But I think that there are a lot of small businesses that don't need to carry a huge burden of a police fee versus some of them that are frequent flyers. Does that make sense?
Yes. I look like I just gave people all a headache, and I'm sorry.
it's fine.
So if I could give you I'm looking to see what different buildings are. Say Target, since it's by itself. Looks like it's 441,000 square feet. That can't be building.
yeah, it's not, it's probably 100,000. Probably 100,000 square foot building.
That definitely includes parking lot.
So the building guard gives me. From the county, 123,000 square feet in building. It's almost like a roof space that they got. That's pretty cool. 123,700, so. Just. That's a lot.
I did say 120,000.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's really close,
It's an architecture back.
but then,
In most of your Lowe's big box stores are between 100 and 120,000. Ours on the bigger side, probably 120,000 also.
so those are. If it's hard for us to give. How to categorize until we get some kind of some numbers and we throw out the. The bigger usage, then we can kind of go back and look and see what. Can that correlate to square foot, can that correlate to. We could even look at. What their gross sales, I mean, we can even look at different things if we have some of the bigger numbers. We can kind of try and figure out how to correlate those and come up with a way to assess it.
I think playing around too with that ESU number. Well, not the ESU number, but. Like the number you gave, that target is 131 ESUs, so that would be $903 a month. Right, for the fee. So. I'm not the Excel wizard, but. It would be interesting to see if we used an ESU. Is that what you did here with the public safety fee under 2027 and 28 commercial by ESU?
That is correct, yes.
So. It's only 5,000, and I don't mean this flippantly, but it's only $5,045 a month, a year, or. What?
That is a hamburger location,
So this is
fast
just,
food,
I gotcha, so this is just an example
correct,
of one.
correct.
And how many ESUs is that? Do you see where I'm trying to go, like kind of do some predictor numbers and scenarios?
So our
So the-
hamburger location's about 4,000.
This room's probably about 4,000 square feet,
About that,
40 by 100.
don't ever ask me that.
So that example is approximately 23 ESUs.
So this is a 23 ESU example. Okay, that's super helpful, because I didn't see how many ESUs that. And why does it go down from 27, 28, and why does it go down in 28, 29?
I think it's vehicle purchases. The police aren't aren't needing to replace as many vehicles that year. So we're seeing an overall drop in the police budget.
Is that savings? Is that realized in the following years? And like, it's basically saved up. So the following years, we don't need quite as much, even though we have an index increase.
Correct.
So that's why the next year comes up quite a bit. But is that? From that 28, 29 to 29, 30, it goes from -5% up to 31%. Does that include the savings realized from the year before, or is that just strictly for the year?
That would be just strictly for the year, what we would need for that year. So the savings would be locked in the previous year.
Well, we're gonna get the same, we're gonna get the
Right.
same amount of money
Right.
every year based on the. Is it,
Well, we would be looking at a rate decrease that year, just because we didn't need the funds. And then the following year we'd have to ramp it back up. So there's a potential if we were to smooth the vehicle purchases over the years a little better, that we wouldn't have to have a decrease, but it would be a smaller increase.
we have not adjusted the police fee up and down since 2017, it's been up. So would we actually do that?
In this model, we would, because we would be funding the entire police department. In the previous years, we've just been funding 5 police officers.
Wait, what?
So moving forward, this is projecting that we would, the entire police department with 50 officers would be funded. In the past, we've only, the police fee was only for 5 officers.
So that's how this is affecting the general fund.
Correct.
I wondered where that was coming from.
Yeah, that's. As Reg said, it's the other 45 that. That we got behind on.
So that's why this went up to $18.33 is because we're taking now this fee and funding the entire department of this water fee.
The deficit.
The deficit related to the police department.
I would love to see some of the data that we've talked about over the months looking for and some scenario based breaking out on the ESUs. With some of our
I'd like to give the information.
I'm gonna. Yeah. I think that's important for us to be like to be able to do that.
Madam Chair.
Counselor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for Chief Copeland. So if we increased the fee based on the units that Mr. Wood talked about, and all of a sudden now Target was paying $900 and some odd dollars a month, what would that do with your relationship with Target?
I would assume, this is my ignorance in how the corporate world works, but I'm gonna guess that the person or the persons that we deal with, which is basically their asset protection, folks wouldn't even know the difference. So they're not gonna change their corporate policies based on this. I think the ones that may, I have no idea if some smaller company that doesn't have a national corporate policy that could easily change that based on living in the city of Kaiser, operating the city of Kaiser, they would maybe change what they do, but I don't think our relationship with Target would change at all.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
A lot of times we try to put equivalents to this numbers like a cup of coffee every day, whatever. That is the equivalent of 2 shopping carts going every month. For Target, the shopping carts are about $450, $500 a piece. So that $900. Just to put it in context, we see a lot of shopping carts around the town that are far away from their origin.
Shopping cart, back, I'd say.
So I'm not saying we directly put all our increase into this.
Right.
This bucket. I'm just saying we use that as a tool to kind of stretch things out for not having to increase the fee on all, on the residences. So if we have the information, then we can kind of say, if we did this, we wouldn't necessarily need to jump targets, or those users $900 a month. But at some point, adjusting some of the high usage people up a little bit to shorten the standard user a little bit. So I want to make sure that's clear. We're not going to try and put every increase on the backs of the high users. But I just want the information so we can kind of go, if we did this, it would help, and it'll, keep the average user from having to almost triple their monthly rate.
Yeah, I think we can run some models on that tiered approach.
Don't ask me for estimates.
We have all that from the county data, so that's pretty easy to get.
That's kind of, if we have the information, we can run a few different scenarios based on square footage, based on. Impervious surface. Impervious surface.
Impervious.
Impervious surface, impervious. So just having some information that says this is the biggest users, and if we can, there may be only two big users and we go, oh, well, not even doing good. But if we say, you know, this. With the high percentage, 31%, basically in retail. We might be able to make a little bit of a dent in that, with a month user. And feel a little more comfortable about. The people that are using it the most, again, hit it a little bit harder. Because they're using it, but I don't want them to not use it. And it's not like something we're gonna say, check this every year and now you are using it. No, we're gonna do it based on historical information. And this is a long time. That if you guys quit calling us, we're not changing. This is this is based on historical value, and it's not that, that it's. We're digging it out. We're just saying this is.
Thank you, Counselor Duran. Counselor Kohler, I see your hand up, so go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The thing that I've heard several times now, and my ears just keep perking up every time I hear it, is you are talking, Mr. Wood, I think, and Mr. Brown, about funding all of the police department with whatever we do here. And is that the reason you're doing that? Is that because the shortfalls in other areas you're trying to cover? Because like Mr. Duran said earlier, Councilor Duran said, we want to talk about the police fee and the police department not shoring up the entire budget. Am I not hearing this right?
Go ahead, Mr.
So to be clear, the police fee isn't paying for the entire police department. The police fee is only paying for the difference between approximately 70% of the general funds. The remaining amount of the police department that isn't covered by 70% of the general fund. So they're still eating up the vast majority of the property taxes, franchise fees. The rest of the general fund, so municipal court, planning, general administration, that still has an issue that we have to deal with at some point. This is not solving that issue. This is strictly saying we're going to give the police department 70% of the general fund revenues. The police fee is to augment those 70%-ish to make sure that we can have a fully staffed police department.
Thank you.
So follow up.
Absolutely. Counselor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what you're saying is you're trying to fund 30% of the police department with this fee?
The shortfall.
Just the shortfall that 70% of the revenue from the general fund can't meet.
And that's what we need 166% or increase to do?
That is correct, yes.
But that was only using the model as it stands now, with commercial paying the same as a single family resident, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That was.
I am pretty adamant that our single family residences should not be paying the same amount as a commercial entity that is over a certain size. Do I know what that size of that commercial entity is? I don't have that answer yet, but I know that Tammy and her family should not be paying, and I'm only because you're here, right? Should not be paying the same amount per month as Target. It's just, not. I can't wrap my head around that, so that's what I want, we need to address that first and foremost. The second thing I have to ask is. Counselor Duran mentioned it in the beginning, and I'm looking at page 66. Did. There's a recommendation to increase the staffing in our police department, Chief Copeland. When did that happen? Cause I feel like. Is this from did the ELT sign off on that? Where did this come from? Cause I feel like we just asked the question and you mentioned it earlier, that we thought we were. When I've asked about staffing before and we were good at where we were when we would be fully staffed. So this 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm not saying I disagree that we don't need, like, that there isn't the need, but this was news to me, section 8.
Thank you for pointing that out. That is a wish list, not a recommendation. Sorry, it probably comes in a recommendation title, cross that off. This is a wish list. If we had the money, this would be ideal optimization. But we don't have the money, so I'm not asking for additional bodies. And I kind of led with that in my opening statement as well, and it probably didn't permeate through all the thing. In my opening statement, I'm like, I don't want to add anything. I would love to, if we could.
Okay.
That would be
I
ideal.
just was like, I wanted to, if the
Yeah.
ELT was part of that.
Yeah, we've discussed this numerous times, like it would be ideal, but we really, I mean, in the budget where we're at now, we're not getting the wish list.
I wanna take care of
Yep.
what we have
Yep.
now,
Yeah, for sure.
add and not be able to take care of.
Yeah, these ads are not in Mr. Wood's calculations. The calculations are only to maintain our current
Current staffing.
staffing levels.
Question on that?
Counselor, just one more.
That's one. So on that subject. Can you give us maybe just an anecdotal crystal ball answer on at what point we know, even though the UGB is not gonna change immediately, even if we did want it. So the area is not gonna increase. But we know, based on recent experience, that the growth is gonna increase. So the growth of the citizens is gonna increase because we're going up. Density is the law. I mean, that's basically what Oregon's making us do. So at some point, we're gonna have a larger, it's gonna keep getting bigger, the increase in residents in the exact same space. So the taxes are gonna go up, it's going up. I mean, there's gonna be tax money coming from those construction, bigger, more dense population is still gonna be based population area. At some point, would you say with a 2,000 person, citizen increase, you're gonna need more people, or 5,000? I mean, at some point, can you give us just a anecdotal answer of, hey, at some point, and we can look at that based on over the last few years, how much our populations increased in the exact same space we have. Where you're gonna see, probably, and my opinion is these more dense populated areas that are gonna happen. Need more, not some reason I was asking service calls. From my experience in the past, I worked security for a complex in San Jose, California. I was a teenager. That had 1,000 units in it, 1,500 units in these apartment complexes, just massive. And I always worked the night shift because I was in school. So I would be there half asleep half the time and have to call, call the police on something. So I knew at how much the police were there at night, because I was the ones that would call typically. Or I had to make sure that they got it in place. So the more dense population in my experience needs more police, or has more police activity. So if we go more dense, which we're start doing, at some point, is it 1,000 residents, 2,000 residents? Are we gonna say, hey, we're probably gonna be needing more officers? Do we just have a correlation of two? And you don't have to right now, and at some point, it'd be nice to say, we know in the next 5 years, no matter what, our area is not gonna. But about, so be ready for that. I don't wanna come in 2 years and go, we just got this, 230 unit apartment complex, and we need more police officers because not over that one, but the one over here, and now they've got an extra 500 units.
Yeah, thank you, Council Fuller. That opens up a robust conversation of policing services. So we could probably maintain our current staffing levels even if the population grew. It's just some things are gonna start to taper off that we can't get to. And, what the city of Kaiser has grown to expect is that we're a full service police department. And I hear that time and time again. It's like, I'm glad I live in Kaiser, not in Salem, or, I love Salem and I don't wanna say anything bad about their police. They're just bigger and they just can't respond to as much stuff. Certainly not Portland. I mean, Portland, you hear about that all the time. My wife works in Portland and they try to call the cops and like, nobody's showing up. It's very difficult. We want to maintain a full service police department. And so to maintain that, it's going to be data driven as to what we can do and how many calls an officer can expect to go to in a day. And how many report calls they take and how many investigations our investigators can handle at the caseload at one time. And then with our CSOs, the ill parks, the illegal parks that we get in our neighborhoods, like if they're so busy taking, shoplifts or no suspect thefts that they can't get to the illegal parks in your neighborhood. Now neighborhoods are gonna start to cry, like, why has this car been here for 2 months? Right, and I think we can provide that level of service right now. So when we start to push up against those timeframes getting longer and our response times getting longer, that's where we're gonna really feel the push, probably from the community, but also from the officers saying, we just can't keep up. Currently, we're okay. I mean, we're right there, we're darn close. But we also haven't been fully staffed in 3-4 years. I mean, Tim put out the numbers the other day, it's been a while. And now we have 3 in the academy, 1 graduating on Friday, 2 graduating next month. When we get those officers in, as long as we don't have any retirements soon, we're gonna be -1 officer. So we're gonna be really close to fully staffed and so almost like fully operational. And so really, we're in a good spot for now, if we can maintain, continuing on a little soapbox, if we can maintain those staffing levels, I think we'll be good for a while. Even if we bring in a new hotel, which is coming, some new businesses that are coming, that's gonna generate calls for service. Expectedly, I mean, right, especially right next to the freeway. Housing, apartment complexes, those are gonna bring in calls for service, so we could probably handle those for now with a fully staffed police department. If we get to the point where we are losing officers for retirement, and this is what got us down so low before, is we just couldn't fill those based on some funding issues, and then hiring, it takes a while to hire somebody. It's like 9 months if you hire an entry-level officer to the time they're actually able to take calls on the road. We're gonna push up against those lag times and calls being responded to, and potentially some calls not even, the lower level calls, maybe not even going to some of these calls based on personnel. So yeah, it's a conversation that's gonna be ongoing. I think we're in a really good spot right now. But I would love to, as we get closer, the data and the time for calls that don't get responded to is gonna dictate how many we need.
Thank you for that explanation. Can we calendar in our long range planning, because we meet every 6 months, right?
Twice a week.
Well, twice a year, yeah. Can we at least when we do our long range planning, get an update on that and like get some kind of a projection of if we have any imminent retirements coming. So we don't, so we can try and stay ahead of the curve on that, as well as like the population, the calls for service, you know, the timeframes you mentioned that we're pushing up against now. Can we get, I think, staying on top of that and getting an update, and just even in a report, in our long range planning, because I think those are gonna be key issues that group has to address, and that will then also play into this funding model that we're looking at. So I think that would be an important thing to bring forward. And then, one more question really quick. Can I get the number of, multifamily housing units that this be? What the total number is? That's, you know, I mean, like the example here in this funding is, I think you said 78 units, so what's the total number of units? That, I would like that, thank you. Now, Sir Duran.
So I have just one, which is unusual.
I'm not the only one.
So you mentioned another hotel room. I don't necessarily need to know the information unless it's up there, but you know, what's the historical data on a hotel for calls? Is that something that there's enough to consider or not? I'm amazing that that is an issue. I'd imagine other places it might be an issue, but I don't necessarily see it, but I'd just be interested. If it looks like there's a significant number, that we probably do have to configure it as a non-retail business establishment.
We get that for.
Just random, how many traffic cases do we work? Your department work under her cases? Given traffic, sorry. You don't have to have that number now, that might be.
I can, if I have that number. I just have to look it up real quick.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Kohler, do you have anything else?
I do.
Just one
I
more?
do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we probably have a consensus that what we need is some additional information that allows us to figure out who and how much these different commercial entities should carry on this, so that we might be able to figure out a way to use that for recommendations to the council.
What?
Just to respond back, a rough number of units for multifamily is about 4,500.
4,500, thank you. Oh my gosh,
One
just
more.
one more, yeah.
Quick one, it doesn't, I don't need to do it now, but could you do like a historical on how fast that's going up? You should have that record based off the yearly. You know, get it, because I think it was pretty flat for a long time, you know, over the last 10 years, it's kind of gone up, probably pretty consistent, and I'd just be interested to know. So we can kind of use that as historical and what projection of what that could be in the future.
Yeah, but try to get that with between planning or some data sets that we have. We'll find out.
Did you I almost? All right, anything else before we, Chief Copeland?
I'll answer that question for you. Going back to 2021, we've worked 0 human trafficking cases in the city of Kaiser. Those are hard cases to work and usually get passed on if there's something that has hinted towards a human trafficking case. One of those indications would be prostitution would lead us to a human trafficking case. And we've worked, it looked like 6 prostitution cases since 2021.
Thank you. All right, if there is nothing else, I just want to do one more circle around staff. Is there anything else? Counselor Kohler,
I'm good, thank you.
thank you, sir. Counselor Durant. All right.
I've asked him enough.
If there is nothing else, we will adjourn, but wait a minute, I want to stop before I almost adjourn. Next steps are, we're gonna have this information ready for the work session with the city council, yes.
So there's an opportunity to have the work session on the 9th. Or do you want to meet as a committee before we bring these answers back to?
So you're asking, do we want to have information back so we can assess it
Yeah,
and make a recommendation?
yeah.
Can you get it done in time? Cause that is a pretty quick turnaround.
Yes,
And I think process wise, Tim is going, let's see, googly eye.
yeah, but I know Chief's gonna be out of pocket next week, yeah.
I'm looking at the calendar and the 9th, obviously. That literally gives you a week and a half to get that to you know.
Yeah,
We could,
Yeah,
perhaps we could meet as the committee on that night.
and not have a work session.
What was their backup work session?
Is that what am I understanding?
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah. Cause the work session was gonna be on this if we were ready, but,
I wanna
I
get
wonder-
this right. I don't wanna rush it. I want
Right.
it to be right.
and I feel like it's more important for this group to meet than some of the other work session topics that we have out there. So that's why I suggest that,
we have some stuff answered, we can
Yeah,
feel confident.
yeah.
I'm good with that. Okay, do we need to get clearance or approval from the council to replace a council work session with a task force meeting
Yeah, we could do that on Monday.
on Monday under other orders of business? Great. Tentatively then. We're not making any decisions here, but we'll make that recommendation under other orders. How's that?
I would support that.
Yay, thank you, Counselor. Okay, if there's nothing else, those are our next steps. We will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:56. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Dan.
Thank Counselor Kohler.
So I just need to know, Shani, are you out of pops or Tootsie Pops?
I have like 2 more left. So thank you. They got me through a very stressful time. They're starting to stretch it out though at the end.
Yeah. Big time. We don't have time to figure this out.
Super. All right, we'll see you guys Monday night.
You'll be back,
Pat,
coming back this weekend?
I've been needed for, will only last.
are you there? Are you coming back?
Well, I don't mind missing Rotary. Anecdotally, how do we?